to G.K. Chesterton, the paragon of paradox, the master of mystery, capable of leaping over a ridiculous argument in a single bewildering bound. My dear sir, firstly, you should know how much I love your Father Brown stories. I started reading them way back when I was a teenage born-again Christian, back before the idea of conversion was even the faintest glimmer. I found your mysteries mind-twistingly good, and occasionally frustratingly fantastic, your prose descriptive and fun, your characters sharp and lively, and the main character so deceptively simple and charming. But the best parts were the paradoxes. There was always a paradox with a moral twist, one that would have me wrestling with a concept or a reimagined precept for days. You were just so bloody good at flipping the script. As a young, somewhat insulated Protestant homeschooler, I initially did not know you'd written anything more than Father Brown. If you had, that would have been gift enough. It wasn't until I had turned Papist that I learned the truth about your output. To say you were prolific would be like saying the Atlantic Ocean has rather a lot of water. Your biography of St. Francis is gorgeous. Your book on eugenics, inspired. I love your defense of Charles Dickens. Your essays are amazing, both funny and thought-provoking. One of them explained completely, in a way I couldn't articulate, why I don't generally like George Bernard Shaw's plays. Seriously, thank you for that. I dove into reading your books, enjoying everything, until I read What's Wrong with the World. I read it. I liked it, mostly. But I couldn't reconcile how one so intelligent as you could go and make such out-of-date, even for your time, dismissive, and downright wrong conclusions about women's suffrage. Look, I know the suffragettes were a pain in the royal backside on your side of the pond, but you, of all people, know better than to judge the whole on the basis of the extreme. For instance, you claim women want the vote because men have the vote already. Kind of insulting, and definitely dismissive. Envy might have motivated some women, but not all. There were definite reasons for wanting the vote, and definite forms of action taken to get it. Your chief argument against women's suffrage seems to be because you want her out of the mob, not the Chicago variety, but the throw stones at government buildings type. Now, I'm not as familiar with British politics as I am with the American variety, but over here, voters are considered mature, responsible citizens. Mobs are what peasants become to fight tyrants, what subjects are forced to do when the law has no other method to register a grievance. It's a technique used by the powerless, not the empowered. In my own republic, suffrage makes you a full citizen, endowing you with the right to have your say about taxation, laws, and who should run the state. Suffrage makes you responsible for the government. In essence, it destroys the mob by making it culpable for those in power. You had other arguments, of course, generally noting the foolishness of the voter and the supreme power of the woman at home. I won't debate you on homemaking. I think it's possibly the most influential job on the face of the earth. I just don't see how adding the ability to vote on a town ordinance changes a homemaker's job or influence. I read your arguments. I may have thrown the book a few times, and then I spent the next 3 weeks arguing with anyone else who would listen about why you were wrong about women's suffrage. It was a shock, you see, for it was the first time I realized that you didn't just write paradoxes. You were one as well. To be fair, we all are. We make grand stands and proclamations about how one ought to live one's life, and then go and do the exact opposite. I know I have, and I still do. It wasn't only your stance on women's suffrage that annoyed me. You supported distributionalism, too. I will refer you to any co-op and ask you to explain how, well-intentioned though they may be, you could hope to have a government or a big business work any better. The Great War was another issue. You were a faithful Christian, demonstrably believing in the sanctity of human life. Yet, you enthusiastically supported and wholeheartedly backed the Great War, a farcical conflict with no clear raison d'etre or objectives. Knowing that you couldn't fight yourself, You used your considerable talents of prose and poetry to talk the youth of your nation into marching off into the trenches, and then worked to drag us Americans in as well. Thanks for that. That's sarcasm, by the way, as if my country didn't have enough to do without getting involved in a European family feud. These inconsistencies nagged at me for the longest time. I had a high opinion of your wisdom, wit, and writing prowess. I couldn't reconcile our differences of opinion, and that drove me to read more about you. Biographies, articles, opinion pieces, history, and more of your essays than I can count. I discussed and argued your theories with people whom I respected, who have an even higher opinion of you than I did. I wrestle with you and your ideas still. I'll probably never stop contending with you, and really, that's kind of awesome. Disagreeing with you forced me to reconsider my positions and my own arguments, to refine and redefine my ideas and ideals. Reading about you helped me to understand the times you lived in and led me to learn about your intellectual descendants. C.S. Lewis, a childhood favorite of mine, J.R.R. Tolkien, Graham Greene, Dorothy L. Sayers, Evelyn Waugh, among others. You inspired me to learn more about the women's movement in my own country, and I gained a greater respect for the American suffragists. I learned more about the Second Vatican Council, the World Wars, the Great Depression, the end of the British Empire, the rise of socialism, fascism, and Nazism, and the culture of defeat and despair that you, in your own way, fought so hard against. By wrestling with you, I grew stronger. I learned, too, that great wit, great prose, and imaginative reasoning abilities cannot shield one from making errors in judgment. You were not an intellectual island. I, with my far inferior reasoning abilities, cannot hope to be any better. Make no mistake, I still disagree with you about universal suffrage. Vote for women! I think distributism is a childish fantasy, and I cannot justify your stance on World War I. But your works and your arguments, especially the ones that infuriated me, inspired me to become a better human, a better citizen, and a better Christian. The Father Brown series is a treasured favorite, and I have yet to come up with a better argument against eugenics than the one you provided. Your essays continue to delight, challenge, and inspire me, even as some of your arguments baffle me. Your wit and powerful prose is something to aspire to. And you yourself are a paradox, a fully human puzzle I shall never quite work out. But it sure is fun to try. So thank you, GK. It's been a blast. I can't wait for our next debate. Yours with renewed admiration, Killarney Traynor.